Hey y'all, welcome back to Tuna Creek Acres. So today we're going to be talking about our trip that we went on to Scotland.
Yes, it was amazing. Best time ever. Highly recommend it. So we can't wait to share all the things that we loved, things that surprised us that we loved, and things that didn't go like we thought. So booking the trip, the best time to go. So as most of you probably know, the busiest time to go is during the summer when kids are out of school. And thankfully, both of our jobs are flexible. We homeschool our kids, so we can take our vacations whenever. So we chose to take this trip at the end of September, first week of October, and it was absolutely perfect. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been over there in the summer before and it's been really busy. So that can add a little bit more stress to your trip. So it was very relaxing for us.
And a lot of places specified, especially up north towards the Highlands and Skye, say that a lot of things closed. There were even castles that we wanted to tour that had already closed for the season. So be sure to check that, because definitely by mid to end of October, a lot of things actually will close for the winter. So.
And some things close because of filming.
Yes. So if I have any fellow Outlander followers out there, just a couple tips to check and see, because where Lallybrook is filmed, Midhope Castle, that was filmed until the last 2 days of our trip, and unfortunately at that point we were up at Culloden, which is 3 hours away. So we weren't about to make the trip down there, but more on that later. So yeah, it was great. So for booking, I did all of the booking for our rooms. So the best advice that I have for that is I went on to Airbnb. Everything is listed there because I didn't want to stay in a hotel. I wanted it to be kind of more relaxed, quieter if we could. But the great thing is that a lot of the places there have what's a bed and breakfast. But the rooms are listed on Airbnb. So if I found something that I really liked, I would actually look up the bed and breakfast and go to their specific link so that they were also able to get paid everything. And I would book directly with that bed and breakfast to book it. So we stayed in one Airbnb, 2 bed and breakfasts, 3 bed and breakfasts, and a hotel. And it was perfect. Everything was really good. Except for our last bed and breakfast. It was a little noisy.
Fine, but yeah, I think we were both ready to get home.
Yeah, that was probably it.
We just got done seeing Skye and leaving there and missing that already, and
nothing can really compare. So, but more on that later.
So one thing I was excited about, nervous until once we got there and saw it actually worked, is cell phones. Our cell phones work great. We use T-Mobile. I'm sure other carriers work just as fine over there. Once we got there, T-Mobile sent us a text saying, hey, you get all the messaging for free that you want to do over here. We got that when we were in the Netherlands doing a layover. Got that again once we got to Scotland. So I was a little nervous about that. I talked to T-Mobile. They said my phone would work over there because I was wanting to use it for a GPS. They said, yes, that will work, but didn't know for sure until once we got there and didn't want to be stuck without it and doing the old school map and pen and
reading,
figure.
Which I would have been doing, which would not have helped our stress levels at all.
Yeah. So cell phones do work over there, and I believe they gave us so much data.
We didn't even use it all.
Yeah.
So it was
great.
Yeah.
We just couldn't make any phone calls, but what we did is we waited till we got on Wi-Fi at our Airbnb or wherever we're staying. All the places had Wi-Fi.
Everywhere.
Every place
the
had
restaurants,
Wi-Fi.
the museums.
Even out in the middle of nowhere had it.
Yes, everywhere. So that was great.
Yeah, so you can use it there.
There's no COVID restrictions. Everything as of now, this is October 2022, and everything has been lifted. It was great. It was awesome.
Yeah, so I guess we should make it a point to be known. So we went over there the end of September.
Correct.
Beginning of October.
Correct.
Is when our trip was, the year of 2022.
Correct.
Just in case someone's watching this 4 or 5 years later, and who knows what's going on in the world then. But yeah, that's when we did our trip, and that's what's going on right now. And of course, these are our thoughts, our experiences, and how we did Scotland. It's not the only way to do it, and it's not necessarily the way you might think to do things and the way you might consider things done, but it's the way we did things. So
it was pretty good.
all right.
So we're going to talk about Scotland as a whole, and then we're going to break down how we traveled through Scotland, the route that we took, because we did a full tour.
All right, so one thing I noticed is every time we went out to eat, and I mean every single time we went out to eat, we would get one napkin for me, one napkin for her. So
don't be messy.
I mean, they will give you more napkins, but they're not going to just bring them out there. You know how some restaurants over here in America, they'll just throw a wad of napkins down. They're very particular about wasting stuff. They recycle. Everywhere you go, you see a waste basket. You see sometimes a compost basket. You'll see recycle basket. You'll have all these baskets broken up. Yeah. It's not just one bin.
Right. Which of course we love, because as homesteaders we do that anyway. Yeah. So we're a huge component of let's reuse as much as we can. So we loved it, but just be aware that it's a little different over there.
Yeah. Another thing is, while we were staying at the Airbnbs talking to them, they had a small farm, but it's basically kind of like what we do here. It's not really they're raising money or anything. They're just kind of getting a little bit here and there. They tend to buy local. So just like we have farmers markets here, they have them over there. They try to buy what they can from other farmers down the street for them. You know, they can't get everything that way, and they still have to go to the grocery store, but when they can, they try to buy local, which was nice. I enjoyed seeing that.
Yeah, it was really cool because even in Edinburgh, they had, on Saturday morning, they had a huge farmer's market right near the castle and Grass Market, and we walked out there and you had people that had made bread and pies and different meats, and it was like a normal farmer's market here. It was amazing. So they do have a lot of that.
Another thing we noticed too is museums are free. So let's say you're looking for something to do. It's raining out there. It worked out great for us one day in Edinburgh. It was pouring down raining. And we wanted to go to a museum. Museums are free. We walked down the street. We got there. As soon as we got there, it started pouring again. We stayed inside. It was still raining. We basically waited till the rainstorm stopped. Yeah. It was huge. Lots to do there. And didn't have to spend a penny. And that was nice because, I mean, every time we turned around, we're buying food, buying drinks, buying something.
Yeah.
And so that was nice, not having to spend anything that day.
That was good. So tipping. So unlike the U.S., tipping is not necessary in bars and restaurants. Of course, if you feel led to tip, that's great. A lot of places will add a service fee, so do be aware of that. It's usually between 10 and 20%. But say you go to a pub and have a drink, they do not expect a tip. So that's totally on you. But if you do rent a taxi, be sure to tip your taxi driver. Yeah. We had some great experiences with our taxi drivers. They were super sweet and talked to us. We actually got the same taxi driver twice when we were in Aberdeen the same night. And he told us that when he heard the call come out, he's like, I bet those are those Americans. And he came and got us because he was hoping it would be us again. And we had a great time. So your taxi drivers, be sure to tip them.
All right, so as far as fees go, what we experienced is not all places do you have to pay to park, but majority of them, yes. And what that parking fee is going towards is the actual facility that you're going to go see. I mean, some of them were like castles that we were going into, so that parking fee also went back into supporting that castle. So people years down the road can still keep enjoying that. Yeah. So parking fees ranged, but majority of them were right around £3. And the castles, they ranged as well. I mean, we had one, I think the most expensive one was like, what do you think, 20? Was it 20 pounds?
Edinburgh Castle was the most expensive.
Yeah, that was the most expensive. Yeah. But the average was about 10 pounds.
And we did a lot of castles. We loved it.
Speaking of pounds, so when...
In 2020. October 2022.
So when we exchanged our money to go over there about a week before we actually went, the pound was, I believe, like $1.12 for 1 pound. I just looked at it right now, and it says it's 90 cents. Yeah. And while we were over there, it was dropping. Everybody was talking about it.
That was the topic of conversation in all the pubs, for sure.
So if you're looking to go,
now's a good time. You'll get a lot for a good bang for your buck.
Yes.
Book fast. So another thing is that Scotland is incredibly clean. I would say, other than Inverness, which we'll get to later, everything was incredibly clean. I know as a woman, bathrooms are huge, like, what? They were so clean. I did not come across, I mean, I live in Atlanta, so you can only imagine. I was very impressed with how well kept the country was and how well kept all their facilities were as well.
Everybody knows we don't live in Atlanta. We live outside of Atlanta.
So we don't go to Atlanta.
So the drink over there, they had this energy drink, and I heard about it before I went from other YouTube videos I was watching, and it's called Iron Brew. So I'm like, I got to try it. I'm there, I'm trying it. I tried every drink, I tried every food, just everything I could. I'm there, I'm going to try it. So Iron Brew, I tried it, you tried it. What was your thoughts?
Nah, it can stay.
Yeah, it wasn't for me. I'm not a big energy drink kind
neither
of person,
am I.
But what would you describe it as?
I think I thought it tasted like cough syrup. It tasted like medicine.
Like licorice
yeah.
and medicine mixed together.
Wasn't that great?
But it might be
it
your
might
thing.
be your thing. Yeah, exactly. You might love it. So give it a whirl.
Oh, and another thing. So I didn't know how the beers were going to go over there. And I've heard that they have warm beers or at least room temperature beers. So I was a little nervous about that and never had a single room temperature warm beer at all. I mean, we had a drink almost with every meal. We would go to a pub, all these different places, never had that. So cold beers. Another thing, so like I talked about before, I've tried everything over there, and haggis is one of them. So I'm like, I'm here, I'm gonna try it, might
Full
as well.
experience.
And we were at a pub and kind of hungry, so I was like, hey, let's get a drink and get something as an appetizer. They had something called dirty fries. It's basically like a chili cheese fry.
Yeah.
But instead of hamburger meat, they used haggis.
Yes.
And
It was
I
fine.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was real. It tasted like chili, the way they fixed it. So it was good.
Yeah. And if you don't know what haggis is, well, feel free
Look
to
it up.
do a search and you'll know.
know.
All right, so our first stop in Scotland was Aberdeen. Basically, why we picked Aberdeen, there's two places you can fly into. You can do Aberdeen, you can do Edinburgh. We chose Aberdeen because the flight was cheaper flying into Aberdeen. Basically, we flew from Atlanta to Amsterdam, did an hour and a half layover there, and then flew into Aberdeen. It was just a few $100s cheaper, so we went that route. There's also a restaurant that I've eaten at before there, and I wanted to take her there.
He loves food. Did you
I
know
love
this?
food. I base my trips around food. The best food. So, but it was
We
called
love
Ashfull's.
Ashfull.
I know
Yep.
I probably always pronounce that wrong because I can't talk.
No, that's
no one
the
there
Ashfull.
understood me, and
You got to say it so fast, though.
I didn't understand
Ashfull.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, we went to Ashfull's. We had the fish and chips, and you get fish, you get chips, which are French fries, and they will also ask you for
Peas, beans, or mushy peas?
just like that. I wasn't
Really
expecting
fast.
that at all.
A lot faster than I even did it.
Yeah, I had no clue what they said. I'm like, you're gonna have to repeat that one. What is that?
I'm his interpreter.
Yes.
So it worked out. I was like, peas, beans, or mushy peas? And he was like,
I don't know what mushy peas are, but we'll stick with the
normal peas.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
that's
there
what we
go.
chose.
So,
But yeah, that was super delicious.
Ashfull's was amazing. I mean, we didn't have fish and chips anywhere else that compared.
Yeah. So if you're in driving distance of Aberdeen, it's worth the drive for a real experience of fish and chips in the UK for sure.
And we're going to list all these places that we're talking about, where we stayed, what we saw, in the description below. So make sure you check that out.
Yeah. So the place we stayed there was Pinehurst Lodge. The owner is a younger couple that own it. They were wonderful. Emailed them about, because that was a bed and breakfast, so we got breakfast included, which was great. It was a great price point. It was just a very short taxi drive away from the airport and walking distance to the train station. And then we were able to leave the next morning, and we took a train to Edinburgh, and we were able just to walk with our luggage. It was a really easy walk, about 10-15 minutes to the local train station and catch a train, which was super fun.
So the trains are a good way to travel there. There's multiple ways to travel. You can take a taxi. It's right around the same city that you're in. You can rent a car. Rent a car is great. We did that, especially if you're traveling it for a distance. But no, renting a car is really expensive.
Yes.
You also drive on the other side of the road.
Other side of the car.
Other side of the car.
All of it.
They have different rules of the road over there. They have different signs. I can't describe what the signs mean. I have no clue. I saw them. I'm like, I don't know what that means. There was a hill sign and a sign that was round with a half X through it, another sign that had a full X. Like, what does this mean? I have no clue.
Just
Half
pay
the time
attention.
I didn't know what the speed limit was. They do have speed cameras everywhere over there, so I'm waiting to see if I'm getting a speeding ticket or not. Don't really know yet. I hope not, because I
No.
felt like I drove.
Really, you did well. I feel he did.
I drove
amazing.
extremely slow the first day.
Very
Like,
cautious.
Yeah. So
They zip there.
oh, and the roads are so narrow. So narrow. At some points, I mean, I'm taking up the whole lane in this tiny. What
And
is
then
it,
they go,
Versa?
zoom! Yeah.
Yeah,
this
and then
little
they're coming around a
Toyota
corner, a blind
hybrid
corner,
thing.
and it's crazy. But
Yeah.
they're nice. We only had one bad experience with the driver
Yes.
over there. Besides that, everybody, I mean, they got a
Knew
chance
we
to
were
pass. They
coming.
would pass. It was no big deal. Just move on with your life, and yeah. So renting a car is another way to go, and then a train.
Yeah.
A train's great. The issue with the train right now is they're on strike. So hopefully that will end soon, but it probably will once they get more money, and then they'll go back to work.
Yes.
But yeah,
Just
they're-
check on that if you're going soon.
They went
October
on
2022.
strike the day after we drove or took the train to Edinburgh.
Yes. So we were lucky. Yeah. So the train ride, we got a beautiful view. It was a pretty decent price for the ticket, and then we arrived in Edinburgh, like Harry Potter and Paddington. It was perfect. I'll do all the movie references. So we got to Edinburgh. I was really excited about this one. In Edinburgh, we stayed at an Airbnb that I did find. I was very lucky because I have been searching and searching for a place and could not land on one in Edinburgh for the price point that I wanted as well. We tried to spend around $100 per night because that was like my challenge. I wanted to do that. So you can do it, but not at the hotel. So this place, I figured Edinburgh and Isle of Skye, I would probably have to pay more, but I was willing to in Isle of Skye because that was just the epitome of it all, right? And so I was able to book it the day that this Airbnb was released. And by the time we stayed there, I think it was almost $75 more per night than the day that I booked it. So just keep watching. Sometimes that happens. But we stayed in the Grass Market area. It has tons of pubs, tons of restaurants. We had a view out our living room window of the castle. It was just absolutely breathtaking. The Grass Market area is wonderful when you're looking. It is around the corner from Victoria Street. For those of you who follow Harry Potter and all of that, that is the Harry Potter Street in Edinburgh. It was absolutely amazing. And it was about 3 blocks from the Royal Mile. So you're walking, everybody walks there. So no matter how much you do eat there, you will work it off as you walk the miles and miles around the cities. We found this great little restaurant. We will find the name and post it below. That we went every morning for breakfast and tea and scones and brunch, and they had the best soup ever, this carrot and lentil soup that I'm going to try to recreate tonight for dinner, so we'll see if I can do it. So we really enjoyed that. Our Airbnb had a washing machine, which was really nice. The problem is that I knew that in Europe they have washers and dryers usually in the same thing. So I started a load of laundry only to realize when Zach's like, I just don't see a drying option. Does this thing just switch automatically from washing to drying? No, it was just a washing machine. So then we had all of these wet blue jeans and wet shirts, and I'm like, oh no, because I just wanted at the end of our trip to leave with the rest of our time there and have clean clothes. So we had everything on heated towel racks and hanging up and on heaters and with fans. It was like a laundromat. It was fine. But so do check on that. It's fine if you can hang up stuff to dry, but that is a thing. A lot of Airbnbs will offer that, but just check. So like I said, Grass Market where we stayed had tons of restaurants. We were able to do a pub crawl one night, which was great, and then just walk back to our room. I would definitely recommend 2 full days there. We were there for 3. I loved it. The city is not really his style. I liked it just because it was so old, but we were able to go to St. Giles Cathedral where the Queen was laid in rest for a couple days after her passing, and she was going through Scotland and London. And then Mary King's clothes tour, that's something we did, and everyone was really friendly. And we did the tour of the castle, so.
Yep, and so when we left there, we headed up towards Glencoe. Now, Glencoe is one of my favorite spots to go. I remember that years and years ago when I went to Scotland for the first time, and driving through there, it's just amazing. If you go to Scotland, you have to go to Glencoe. Just check it out, just drive through it. Have someone else drive for you so you can actually enjoy seeing it. That's what I told her.
Stop.
I was like, you just enjoy it for me because I'm trying to drive, but there's plenty of places to pull over and park.
Constantly.
And enjoy it, take pictures, videos, do all that. We rented a car in Edinburgh, drove up there to Glencoe, super beautiful.
We stayed at a bed and breakfast there with a sweet couple. There's not much to do there. So hiking.
Now, if you're big into hiking, that is a good stop for
Yes.
you. Glencoe is an awesome place to hike. I mean, they have hundreds of miles of trails, and trails that you just couldn't imagine. They also have the highest peak. It's just outside Fort Williams, called Ben Nevis. We went over there. Now, we didn't attempt to go all the way up top, but we did step foot on the trail and walked a little distance up and saw the sheep and said hey and took some pictures and then walked back to the car.
But it was really great. And Fort William is the town around there, so we had a great time shopping.
Plenty of places to eat.
Plenty of places to eat. Yeah, it was great.
And then we left from there and went to our favorite place,
Skye. It was amazing. The place we stayed there was just out of a storybook, out of a movie. It was the Viewfield house. It's been in the McDonald clan family for generations.
They said over 400 years.
So it's older than America. It was just so beautiful. So we highly recommend this hotel if you're going to Skye. It's right in Portree, which is really close. So we arrived, and the weather, which is a lot like Florida, they say even over there, is if you don't like the weather, wait 10 minutes and it'll change. So we had looked ahead and noticed that it was supposed to rain for the next 2 days, and we had already known that Skye had a lot of places that we wanted to hike and explore. So we went ahead and went to Old Man's Store, which the legend is that there's a giant buried there and it's his thumb sticking out, which if you follow Harry Potter, that's a scene from that as well. It was straight uphill, and I love hiking. I can hike pretty decently. This pushed me a lot.
And the wind almost pushed her off.
Yeah, so I literally was on my heels putting all my weight backwards, and the wind was holding me up. So maybe it was just a mix of everything and the altitude and all that, but that was a fantastic hike. And we did that. It was just gorgeous, breathtaking. After that, we went to Kilt Rock, which is a cliff that the rocks look like a kilt. And that is pull in a parking lot and walk right there. So that's not a major hike if you're not a hiker at all. So then we went to bed at our that night they have soup and cheese boards that you can book ahead. They have a fire in the evening. We would be like an old couple and got our books and sat by the fire, and he had a dram of whiskey and I had a glass of wine. It was absolutely perfect. And the next day we woke up and the weather was nice, so we went to the fairy pools, and that brought me to tears. I am not a crier, and I was so overwhelmed with just the majesty and beauty at that point. Like, we loved it so much. It was great.
And the fairy pools are I wouldn't say an easy hike, because walk back out of there, that last little bit is uphill, so you do have to work a little bit, but it is an easy hike.
Yeah.
There was older people out there that could hardly walk with canes and people walking them down there. They're taking it. So,
yeah.
I mean,
you
can walk as much as you want to.
Yeah.
You don't have to go all the way. You can see the first waterfall, turn around, go back to your car, or you can walk 3.5 miles down there all the way to the base of the mountain and see all of it.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Highly recommend that. And then around the corner, we just decided to explore, and we saw that there was an oyster bar around the corner, and we followed it. And do you want to talk about it? Because you loved it.
It was so fresh. I mean, it was literally like they just caught it, brought it in there, and you bought it. I loved it. It was funny to me though, is the oysters were actually cheaper if you had them shuck them than if I was to shuck them myself.
But the
I didn't
price
really understand
was-
that, but the price was outstanding.
Outstanding.
I mean, I got all them mussels for like $7.
This huge container.
You got
huge
half a
container.
lobster for
Yeah.
14.
Yeah, it was unreal.
I know it's not dollars, it's pounds, but you know.
Pounds.
But yeah, it was outstanding. And then you just sit there and you look out onto the beautiful scene of Skye and yeah,
was
eat
so
your meal.
amazing.
It was great.
It was so good.
So,
So yeah, and then Portree was there, had some cute shops, places for high tea if you wanted that, plenty of places to eat. Skye, we can't say enough good things about it. If you don't go to Scotland and not go to Skye, that's a requirement.
yeah, the one thing I would say is I wish I could have took a day away from the next place we stayed at and stayed a day longer in Skye.
Yes.
Basically, we saw everything on the central and east side of Skye. We didn't see anything on the west side of Skye.
Yeah.
And there was a lighthouse out there that I wanted to get to and just didn't have time to get over there.
Just have to go back.
So then we left Skye in tears and drove down to
Loch Ness.
you know,
Yeah, we explored that and the castle there, which I'm not going to attempt to say.
starts with a U.
Your court, I don't know. So that was fun. It's ruins. It's not like a decorated castle or anything like that. We did forget to mention that on the way from Edinburgh to Glencoe, we went to Stirling Castle. That was great.
Yeah.
So, but we went to Loch Ness and then into Inverness, which we should have just kept going. I don't want to give Inverness a bad name because it might have just been where we parked and walked a bit, and
I just can't see
were just
anything
sad.
being that great in Inverness.
we were
No.
disappointed.
There was a lot of traffic.
Yeah, it
of course,
wasn't
it's
as
not
clean.
that fun driving on that side of the
Yeah.
road when you're not used to it.
Yeah. It was
But
just
you want to do some
dark.
shopping, so
Yeah.
we went there.
There's an
There's
amazing
tons of different places to go shopping at.
Yeah, there is the most amazing bookstore. It starts with L. We'll put it in the comments. I'll figure out what it is. And 2 stories of antique books, which of course I had to buy. My goal was to find a Gaelic Bible. Couldn't find it, but I found a Gaelic English dictionary, which was second best. So we went to Inverness. We had a great lunch there. It was great, but then after that, I was very sad. I wanted to, as I mentioned, I love the show and the books of Outlander, and so I was hoping to find the hotel from season 1 and the pillar in the middle of the street, which turns out is not in Inverness. They used the city of Fife to film the Inverness scene. So if you are a follower of the show and are expecting to see anything in Inverness, you unfortunately will not. Not the real Inverness of today. So then we moved on and we went to Culloden. We stayed at a bed and breakfast there. It was fine. Maybe it was just the sadness of leaving Skye, Inverness being a bust that day, but it wasn't the best place we stayed. So
Yeah, Culloden would be a good place to go see the battlefield, spend some time out there. You could spend anywhere from an hour to 3 hours out there on the battlefield, seeing all of it, and then just moving on. If you're heading back towards Aberdeen, there are probably 15, 30, who knows how many castles on the way.
There's so many castles.
We looked it up and it's just like castle. I mean, there's tons of stuff to do back on the way back to Aberdeen. So if we would have just went back to Aberdeen, slept there that night, because that's where we're going to fly out of the next day, that would probably worked out great for us, but that's just not what we did. But you did get to see your standing stones.
yes, so I was super disappointed, as I mentioned, that Lallybrook was closed, and then the whole Inverness wasn't what I thought it was going to be. But then I found out that actually the road that our bed and breakfast was on, around the corner, were the standing stones where the author of Outlander, Diana, had been and was inspired. That was the standing stones that she was inspired from. So we were able to visit that. That was incredibly beautiful. Obviously, it has some history to it as a burial ground and all of that, which they explained there. So that was an incredible surprise. We also drove a bit to Brodie Castle. That was a fantastic tour. It was actually a living quarters, so that it's one that's set up as if someone lives there, which you enjoy those kind of castles because it's like a king and queen can come out at any moment. But we did tour the Culloden battlefield. That was fantastic. You get a lot of bang for your pound at Culloden, because once you pay your ticket price, you also are able to be a part of any tours, any demonstrations, anything like that. And so I think we spent 3.5 hours there. We spent a good long time. We ate there for lunch. It was delicious. It was great for a quick lunch. So we really enjoyed that part of Culloden. But like you said, we wish we had stayed one more day in Skye, drove through, visited the battlefield, and just kept on going into Aberdeen. But it was definitely an experience that I would recommend. I really enjoyed Culloden a lot.
So real quick, before we get out of here, a couple of quick things for you. If you are going to rent a car, make sure that you take the time to realize you're driving on a different side of the road if you are from America. Get used to that. You can look up beforehand their road signs and speed limits and see exactly what that is and what you're supposed to do to drive safely. Ease into it. Don't have to rush into traffic. You don't have to stay with everyone else. They can pass. They will pass.
They will.
So it's fine. Just stay within your limits. Anything that I would have changed is, like I mentioned before, I would have taken out a day from staying in Culloden. I would have just used that as a pass through and added that back to Skye. I'd like to spend a little bit more time there. But that's it. Everything else with our trip was perfect.
It was so great. Trip of a lifetime. Wouldn't have wanted to do it with anybody else. It was great. We had fun.
Well, until next time, God bless.